between units and a base. So I have to try and keep that alive, but I've got tanks on the way. Now I've got to screen my troops with that. You see, it's absorbing the bullets, keeping my troops alive. Now I've got a tank there, and I have to pick out the rocket soldiers. It's essential.
Battle control initialized.
Hello there, comrades and cannon fodder. It's Dvoid here. I've got a 1v1 multiplayer game, and for this one we're on Strashno map. This is one of the 2023 ladder maps. So it's one of a selection of these maps that if you play on the ladder, you use one of these ladder maps. And this is one I've played before, and there are some of them that are part of this ladder map selection that will be recognisable maps. Some of them will be old, some will be relatively new, and some will be brand new. So you get a wide range, you get a selection of maps. For example, Timian is one of the ladder maps at the moment, the 2023 ones, so, you know, that suits me. But I'm testing different ones, and I'm using this one at the moment. I've got my engineer on the way to this oil derrick, but I've sent 2 riflemen to escort him. Now, I'm using my riflemen in pairs where I can, because you know, they're just safer that way. If they come across single enemy riflemen, you know, you've got the advantage, and then they have to send more units to scout the same area. My opponent's got the first oil derrick capturing. I'm just about to finish capturing mine. And off it goes. I've got the rifleman escorting it, and the rest of my rifles I've sent here, look, to secure this second oil derrick. And I've got 4 at my home base. One of them is going ahead to clear the way for the engineer, but one of the 2 riflemen with the engineer is going to take its place. So I've still got 4 riflemen at my home base and 2 escorting the engineer. It's just I wanted one to move ahead a little bit. My opponent secured the hospital straight away, and for production tab I'll go to. I've got my 2 refineries. My opponent's got exactly the same, except I've placed my second refinery. Power plant, and my opponent's just placed theirs. So they're slightly behind now. Whatever that delay was for, they were distracted by something. And they've got their engineer. They haven't captured that. I'm not sure, surely they're familiar with the map. This player's, you know, they've been playing a fair while. And from what I can see, they've improved quite considerably. The last few times I played them, they've got a lot better, and they were in our AGL 13, I believe, one of the Minions players, and it wouldn't surprise me if they did quite well. But they've captured the hospital and then got this oil derrick in a shift queue command to capture it, and then he's going to move back up here. And they've just placed the war factory, so I'll be about to build my APC now because I was ahead timing. I've got 10 seconds on my refinery, they've got 22. So they're 12 seconds behind in the build. Doesn't sound like much, but, you know, it all counts. If I was to say I have a good, solid, and, you know, really good build anyway, where I'm going quickly, you see, 1 rifleman against 2. I haven't lost any, and my opponent hasn't got that screening now, rifle guard. They don't know if there's what's coming now. For all they know, I've got an army, and I actually have. So they're going ahead, checking everything out. And let's just have a look at early army values. I'm at 5,000, my opponent's at 4,000. And my APC's up front. And I've saved those 2 rifles. They've joined my main force. But look at that. The engineer has nearly been caught out by a single rifleman. That was so close. My opponent's got both oil derricks. And I've cleared away a couple of riflemen. But you have to watch out. Like this guy, for example. Let's just see what the enemy can see. Yeah, they did catch sight of my army eventually, but I hope to keep them hidden, like I say, and I know I had to get that up front quickly. And it's targeting rocket soldiers, look, because when the rocket soldiers are dead, there's no threat really to that armour. I can easily win the engagement, and their ranger got a couple of shots on my engineer, but he survived, and the hospital's healing him. He's at full health, very nearly, if he's not already. Yeah, now he's at full health. So I just managed to save the APC, look. I don't want to lose that. And because I haven't got a vehicle, these guys have to fall back. So I'm at 6,000, my opponent's at 3. They lost, you know, a few thousand worth of units there out of their army, and I'm sending more units, repairing the APC, and now I should be building my MCV. Yeah. My opponent's got theirs already. So I'm guessing they altered their build order at some point, because I've got my 4 barracks, look. 3 power plants. My opponent's got 3 barracks. So they've just, you know, saved time there. And I've got my... although I am ahead in the build still, they've evened that out. Because I've placed my refinery and they're able to place theirs, but they are wasting seconds. There, they've placed it. But this battle going on, I've got the view range of the hospital. I can't believe he's making that mistake. Without vehicles, and I've got a vehicle and the view range of the hospital. That was, you know, unexpected, to be fair. I wasn't expecting to throw units like that. It's always, you've got to wait for those tanks to arrive first. You just have to. Why? He had the tanks, so they were just a few seconds behind. It would always be best to wait for that tank before you engage, and I wasn't expecting this. I've been caught between units and a base, so I had to try and keep that alive, but I've got tanks on the way. Now I've got to screen my troops with that. You see, it's absorbing the bullets, keeping my troops alive. Now I've got a tank there, and I have to pick out the rocket soldiers. It's essential. And then run over infantry. And APCs are brilliant for base attack, because your tank soaks up the damage and destroys enemy vehicles, screens your infantry, but the APC, now that can move between buildings and crush enemy infantry. They're excellent. And they can pick out rocket soldiers, whereas your tanks can't. There you go, I've overrun that force there, and they've got medium tanks, you know. Sending a medium tank ain't gonna help. And I think I've got grenadiers, yeah we have, I've got a grenadier force mixed in there, look, just for some damage against buildings. That's what I'm claiming they're there for, and I'm sticking to it. I've moved my MCV down here for an expansion, and my opponents had to retreat with their MCV, but they had it going this way. They've changed their mind and sent it round instead, and I was looking out for it in case it came past here or tried to set up here. Now I don't want to destroy these refineries, look, but I also didn't want those getting away. That's not good, but I can't pursue them. I have to consolidate and, you know, secure my current gains. I don't want the enemy, say, destroying this force, because it takes me time to move around following them, giving them time to build more units. I don't want that. So luckily I got to engage then, and they didn't have their base defences fighting alongside. They may have done a lot better if they had, and I couldn't get that tank away. I did try. I remember clearly trying to get it away. And the APC's still alive, but with me being so low on vehicles, I've got to, it's got to contribute. But I'm moving it away because it's nearly dead, but my opponent's called it. It was quite, you know, a brutal fight once it kicked off, but I do believe I've got some grenadiers left. There's 2 at least. So yeah, some did manage to survive, you know, mixed infantry. It's always a good thing. But this is a recent game, but I'm going to add a second replay to this one, because that was obviously a short game. But there's the army graph for you. My opponent was slightly ahead as well, look. But once the engagement kicked off, my opponent did kind of maintain a decent army. It's just mine increased. You know, there's looked like a couple of main engagements in there where I've taken losses. Yeah, earnings graph, about even, but my opponent's more stable for earnings. And I've got a few heavy tanks. The good old APC survived. Flamethrower. My engineer, I think I put, yeah, there he is. Couple of grenadiers left and a basic amount of infantry. Now for the combat tab, I've got a 14,000 army value left. I didn't lose any structures, luckily. My opponent lost 9. I killed 136 units. My opponent killed 75. I destroyed 31,000 credits worth of my opponent's assets. They destroyed 12,000 credits worth of mine. No support powers in effect because it was too early, and I used the standard build order for that one because, you know, I know that that player was good. But at this point, I'm actually building a second war factory. So I built my first refinery, my first expansion refinery, that's my 4th refinery. And what I did was I decided to build another refinery quickly. But I should have my 7 barracks. Well, yes, I do. I've got my 7 barracks, that's important. But now I'm building a second war factory now. With the build order I've been using with the radar dome, what I would do is when I build my first expansion refinery, my 4th one, I build a power plant, 3 more barracks, and then I would build a radar dome or a war factory. Now that's before you continuing to expand, so you need to make sure you protect your war factory and service depot, and you need to protect your expansion. Now in this case, that's not enough ore to support a growing drain because of units, structures, and tech. It's not enough, so that's why I moved down this way before I started to build the war factory, and then I would have gone for power plant and radar dome. So there you go, that went okay. Basically that build order, I just altered it slightly. Now the economy, I got 7 ore trucks, hung on to 2 oil derricks, I kept the hospital, that was the focus for the first engagements, the hospital. I earned 51,000, my opponent earned 49,000, so they did as well for income, because they had a more stable one going by the graph. I've got 4 grand and they've got nearly 2 left in the bank. I was at 31 actions per minute, my opponent was at 82, so they were giving orders quickly. There's your scores, basics, there's all your tabs and graphs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the second replay, and this is a replay I've got from a little while back.
Battle control initialized.
So, hello there comrades and cannon fodder, this is a 1v1 on Separateness map. We've got a spectator for this one, but I'm using Russia, my opponent's using England for this one. And Separateness map, I do like it. You've got this really decent starting ore patch, so it means you don't have to build 3 refineries. Now I often do, just to stick to my standard build order, so I'm not altering things, and sometimes it causes mistakes and for you to forget things, and 3 refineries brings in the cash nice and quickly. But you can build 2, that's all you need. But what I would do is, if I built 2 refineries instead of 3, I would build an extra ore truck at the war factory. So once I've built a war factory, and I would have 2 refineries, I would build an APC and 3 ore trucks, and that means it alters what you build after the war factory. Because you're not building your 3rd refinery, instead you would go straight to the service depot, I would say, and then power plant and a few barracks. But because of the 3rd ore truck, your build time is altered, so I would maybe get a power plant and a barracks or 2 before the service depot because of that. Just help get some infantry mass and make use of the extra ore truck when it does roll out, and match your build order to it, so you've not got idle build time where you've got a service depot but you can't build an MCV, for example, or whatever, because you're building an ore truck. You may as well be building a power plant and a barracks in that time while it's not doing anything, and then time it so the service depot's ready to place and you can build an MCV straight away. You just have to alter your standard build for 3 ore trucks instead of 2. But I've gone for the central oil derrick after capturing this one. My opponent, they're capturing the closest one up top, and they're sending units here and there towards the centre. Both building our war factories were almost exactly on equal timing. Their first scout told them that I've got units there. Got a medic. Second medic. Right, they're grouping their units. There's their engineer, and they've got him, ordered him to move around the edge of the map, and both placed our war factories. So their engineer's heading down here at the moment. But, like I've mentioned in a couple of recent posts, the soldiers, the rifle guards that I place at the edges of the map, here and here, nowadays I give them orders, at least 1 or 2 of them, to move up and back down just to look for engineers. So this guy would also move this way and back looking for engineers, and I'd do that every now and then. Replace the rifle guard when he moves out, you know, and watch for what happens. And it can also reveal enemy flanking forces, but I've moved forward without my vehicle. That was a big mistake, and I was trying to head for this. So I've fallen back straight away, and I've got my APC. So now my opponent hasn't got a vehicle. I should move out immediately, but I've probably kind of on the back foot a bit after that blunder, ran headlong into the enemy. But my opponent's falling back, and they're right to, because they haven't got a vehicle. So my engineer's going back. I've got 2 oil derricks. My opponent's got 1 at the moment, and their engineer is on his way, still on the same journey. And there's another ore truck. There's service depot. Mine should... What's this? I'm behind slightly. I've got 4, 5 barracks. Perhaps that's why. My opponent's got 1. Right, now they've built a second. So I'm about to place my service depot. Let's have a look, see if there's a difference in army value. 6,300 each. Very close in this game. But I've managed to capture this centre. That's a nice advantage. But, you know, you can't get any closer in army value. And I look then. Let's see. So I'm going for 7 barracks quite early because I've got 5 and I'm building another. And I'm waiting for the MCV to build. My opponent is also, but they're a few seconds ahead, about 5 seconds ahead of me. There we go, we've got units converging. I'm at 7,000 army value, my opponent's at 9. That's not good. But they haven't got a vehicle here. If only I knew. Now I do. Look, very smart to back off, but now they've got a vehicle. So I've got my rifle guards positioning here and there you see, there's their engineer. This guy would find him immediately. So I need to be aware and start making it a habit of moving up and down the edges of the map with my rifle guards, just to find any engineers hiding like that, because it's a lot of good players will do that. You know, they won't send their engineer straight in early for a capture. They'll send it around the edge after he's done his oil derrick capturing, but he'll hold it back a bit. I'm at 11,000 army value. My opponent's got 13,000 army value, and I've got my first tank rolling out. My opponent has got 3... Nearly, I'm assuming they're about to have 4. Well, 13,000 army value each. Briefly, so that's okay. I've got my eco transfer, and they're going for my oil derrick. I've only got a couple of tanks and my APC. This is not great, and I should, at this point, because I've been really passive, I should have used my grenadier drop, moving round the back and waiting for a good time. Now we would have seen them take these out, but I should still have gone for it. And like I say, this game was from a while ago. I can't remember exactly how it went. And I'm out of money. Scraping by, that's not great. And there's another ore truck on its way over here. Now I've got my primary infantry production here, but you know, considering this is my lifeline of earnings, it's vulnerable. But I've got my army in the right position. My rifle guards are obviously letting me know what's going on, and I'm reinforcing here while I've got my main force. Here we go. 20,000 to me, 24,000 to my opponent. The medics are a pain, and that second army arriving wasn't great either. Far from ideal, but I've got a second army arriving now, and thankfully the good old APC is quick and will be on side to screen my troops. Look, oh no, don't. I'm two up front. They're dying up front. Base defences to the rescue. Excellent. Get repairing, and I've got this small force. I can build tanks on site. I need a barracks and more defences. So I'm at 9,000 army value. My opponent's at 18,000, and they've got artillery shelling me from here. Scouts, look, and they've got an eco raid, but I have got forces to meet them, and I've sent my ore trucks away, so they're safe. That's excellent. But they've captured that with their. There's my engineer, and there's the enemies. Now they're hitting here. They're looking for ore trucks, look, and I've sent these on an eco transfer. That's not great. They're moving to the death, and yeah, I've noticed. That's good. I was on the ball, but I'm trying to attack this force that's got artillery, hoping that his bulk of his main army is away, attacking elsewhere, and the artillery's more vulnerable. But look, he's converged immediately, and that's terrible. I've had to fall back with what's left. Very bad. And also, look, yes, they did eventually try and... I think yeah, I've lost all of them. I don't really know what I would have done. I thought I'd salvage them. But I'm at 5,000 army value, my opponent's at 23,000, and I'm being shelled and hit by a powerful attack and a base push. So he's bringing all his assets, artillery, base defences, infantry, tanks, build production, build radius, I mean, you know, he's got all the elements, and in these situations, you own this, I wouldn't destroy it, I would capture what assets I could. You see, he's not, oh, I've sold it, you see, that's the best thing to do. But capture, if they don't do that, capture, and I've caught this army, and I'm confident I can wipe them out. So, at least, you know, pick your battles is the idea here. Get your tanks up front, look, and then I've defeated that force, so it defeats a section of the enemy's assets where I'm defeating where I can. You know, I've got one construction yard left, sadly, and my opponent, I've captured the oil derrick back, my opponent's retaking it. Now, there's my engineer, it's still alive. We'll have a capture of war. And look, I'm sending these out to search, but I've got that. Now my tank is nearly dead, but I'm not allowing the mining. And I've got this on its way to reinforce my expansion. That's where I'm going to do my mining from now. That's why I've got my army, what there is of it, here. But look, units that are on the way are telling me what's going on. But on this map, a useful part of it is this for an emergency supply of ore. Look, my opponent's captured it back, and I've got my engineer there. Now he's hit my main base, so I'm calling everything in. I've got build radius. Yeah, out of position, sadly, and there's a capture going on here. And I've seen it and broke the capture. That's something. Nice moves. And he's shelling his own troops. That's something nice as well. Getting cash. And, yeah, I didn't save those ore trucks. I should have done. They should be mining here, but I haven't got my refinery there. Sadly, that's a shame. And there, I've obviously called it at that point, because it was brutal, and I didn't want to continue suffering. So there you go, there's game 2 for you. Very interesting, very different. Both short, brutal games, so I hope they proved entertaining. They were fun to play. And there's the army graph for this one, a straight up, and not totally straight down, but it was near the end. It was an up and down at the end, but, you know, we were fairly close. You know, at the start, fairly close. But my opponent did have a few grand on me when the engagement started, but this initial clash, they had that second force that arrived. My second force wasn't as effective as theirs. Their second army turned the battle. So, and they did really well having the construction yards up front, fighting with their units. Look, they're brilliant. How they used all the elements they needed with, you know, tanks, infantry, base defences, build radius, artillery, now that's great, it's all the elements you need. If I'd have matched them, I'm sure they would have gone further, but they're building helipads and stuff up on the front lines and base defences. It's very good solid play that was, and you see how they've moved forward here to cut me off from this ore supply, and they've got this. If they need to, if I did defeat them, they could fall back here, because they've got that guarded look. So it was excellent play, that. Very good battle. Here's the earnings. Not bad. I was fairly good for earnings. Obviously, they took a serious slight beating at nearly the 9th minute, so that was not good. But my opponent's army, they've got a couple of longbows, so they did go higher in tech level. Those longbow Apaches, they're excellent for eco raids. You can just, 2 of them can wreck an enemy ore truck. They're really good, so you can fly around the edge of the map and destroy ore trucks, sometimes before your enemy even knows you've got that level of tech. You know, because I wouldn't have known he had longbows. He's brought them here, look, but they did build them at the front line. So they weren't hiding them, but they're very good units, really good against tanks. They're just one of the more micro-intensive units, but it doesn't matter, and it's not a lot of micro, like management and control. It's not a lot, but it's well worth it as well, because you just take a few moments to destroy an enemy ore truck and send them for to get reloaded, and then go for another eco raid and stuff. And when you start to get 3 or 4, you can go for bigger targets and things, or completely decimate the enemy's supply of ore and income. But yeah, there's their army, a couple of longbows, few artillery, tanks, some medics and infantry. Combat, they've got a 28,000 army value left. I lost 8 structures before it was over, they didn't lose any. I killed 167 units, my opponent killed 221. I destroyed 31,000 credits worth of my opponent's assets. My opponent destroyed 56,000 credits worth of mine. And their support powers, they've got the GPS satellite counting down, so if it had gone on much longer, they would have had the ability to track my assets through the shroud when the satellite has been launched from the tech centre. And where's the tech centre? There it is. You see the yellow bar is the satellite counting to launch, and when it launches, say I had an army here with 2 tanks and 10 infantry, 10 rifles, 5 rockets, you would see 2 symbols for vehicles and then the dots for the infantry, and then they would see my structures. You get symbols for buildings and everything, so when the satellite launches you can see your enemy's assets under the shroud, and it's a great ability. Production, they are building helipads, defences, and they've actually, yeah, medium tanks and more longbows. Cool. They've hung on to 2 oil derricks, this one, and they've taken that one. The central one was destroyed, they destroyed it while I captured it. They wrecked it, but we did capture and recapture this a couple of times. But they've got 9 ore trucks, and I earned 75,000 credits. My opponent earned 93,000 credits, and I've got a couple of grand left. My opponent spent up, but that's fine. They've got a good income. I was at 29 actions per minute. My opponent was at 27. And there's our scores, 332 to 601. And there's the basics for you. All the graphs and charts and everything. So there you go. There's 2 fairly rapid, brutal games for you. I hope you enjoyed them. They proved entertaining. I enjoyed playing them. Like I say, the first replay was a game I've just played, and this was from a while back. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give us a sub and a like. Thank you very much for watching. Take good care of yourselves, and for now, goodbye.
Battle control terminated.